Good morning, friends. Pastor Jason with our Friday morning check-in on this beautiful sunny day. You might hear the sound of a jet going overhead here for just a minute, but that'll go away. Our devotional reading today has this great description of what I think leads into our discussion of worship this week. The writer of the devotional in the Upper Room Book of Disciplines for today refers to it as a gospel symphony. So the entire gospel story as a symphony, where the first movement, the first piece of that is God loving us and coming to us in the incarnation. God loving us so much that he comes to us as a baby in a stable in the person of Jesus Christ. That's the first movement. The second movement to that symphony, then, that second piece of music that follows along, is our response. And I think when we get right down to it, that's what worship is. I mean, our response to what God has done, our response to God's love, I think that second movement, our response, that's what worship is all about. Coming to grips with just how loved we are, how desired we are, with the enormity of the sacrifice, just with this idea that the creator and the maker of the universe loves us so much that he redeems us for our sins, should elicit a response. And that could be praying, that can be singing, that can be playing the guitar, it can be dancing, it can be preaching, it can be whatever. There, I think we start to see some of the flavors and the variety of what we call worship. Because I think we're all going to respond differently. Whereas what God does by coming in the person of Christ is like a universal movement. That comes once and for all. That's how that happens. The response back to that will be as unique as each and every one of us are. And, our response to God will have, that's going to have some kind of effect on our song choice, on the translation of the Bible that we prefer for the ease of reading, for the radio stations, to where we sit in church, to what if we prefer the sanctuary to the Family Life Center, or to the brewery, or to outside, whatever it may be. But I really like that analogy, that metaphor that's used there as, the gospel as a symphony. God's moving is the first part. Our moving is the second part. And that second part is all about worship. And so I guess if I'm going to leave us with a question today, which we so often like to do, how are you responding to what God has done to you? Are you responding in a way that feels like it's setting you free? Or do you feel like maybe you're responding in a limited basis because of some tradition, because of some peer pressure, because of some of the opinion of others in your life? Are you responding back to God in worship freely and joyfully and happily, or are you holding something back? God holds nothing back when he moves towards us. When God comes in the person of Christ, he held nothing back, poured himself out, gave up his very life for us. Our movement back should be as close to that as possible. So if we're being reserved, if we're being restrained, if we're holding back and limiting our worship, why is that? Not an easy question, maybe something we haven't thought about before, but is our worship of God? Is our response back to God for what he has done, is it proportional to what God has done to us? And if not, maybe how can we try to balance that out some? Friends, as always, thanks for taking the time to check this out, to give those thoughts some consideration. Spend a bit of time chewing on that today. Hope you have a wonderful Friday. It looks like it's going to be great. It's going to be a great weekend. And Pastor Angie sent out that email yesterday. Friends, we're just a few weeks now of getting back together in person, and yeah, it's gonna be a little bit different, but we get the chance to come back together and worship together, and that's gonna be so awesome. That chance to assemble again, friends, I think far outweighs any of the restrictions or the changes. So I hope we're all kind of trying our best to focus on the positives there. You know, to be optimistic, to be positive, but to still try to be safe and careful and mindful of all of the restrictions and the best practices that we're going to have in place. So thanks for your time today. You are so loved. Don't ever forget that, and we can't wait to see you soon. Have a great day, friends.